difference. Today is Tu B'Shvat. And the halacha tells us that Tu B'Shvat is a quasi Yom Tov. After all, the halacha says, the Shulchan Aruch says, Nagu shalolipo al panei b'Tu B'Shvat. The halacha is we don't say Tachnun. And again, today, Tu B'Shvat, a Thursday, not to say Tachnun, that's mamish like. That's a Ein Simcha Gedol Mizo. That's a Yom Tov. That's a Yom Tov. I don't care, trees, not trees, doesn't make a difference to me. If there's no Tachnun on a Thursday, that's a big Yom Tov. But the question is why? Obviously, if we're not saying Tachnun, it means that there is some Simchadik, there's some element of joy on this particular day. But the question is, what is the relevance? What is the message? What is the meaning of Tu B'Shvat? Because when one looks through the sources, and for example, the Mishnah Berurah says, what's the significance of Tu B'Shvat? Shu Rosh Hashanah li'ilanos. It is the new year for trees. V'noagim Ashkenazim laharbos az b'minei perush la'ilanos. And Ashkenazim, we have the custom to eat a lot of fruit. Okay, so it's right. What does it mean that it's a Rosh Hashanah for trees? So again, the Mishnah, the Gemara Maseches Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah explains that on Shvat, in the month of Shvat, Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, exactly when on Shvat, the 1st of Shvat, the 15th of Shvat, but we'll go with Beis Hillel that it's the 15th of Shvat, is the Rosh Hashanah li'ilanos. Ultimately, again, is the Rosh Hashanah for trees. For trees. Now, what does that mean? The truth is, it's a tithing implication. We know that, again, there's a 7-year agricultural cycle, the 6th year being Shemitah, and in every different year, there's different tithing obligations. So the tree tithing year begins at Tu B'Shvat. So before Tu B'Shvat, the trees are part of one tithing year, and after Tu B'Shvat, they're part of a different tithing year. I mean, are you excited yet? All right, I know this is very riveting stuff. So if you're a farmer, the truth is, even in Eretz Yisrael, where Trumas and Maasros again have much more day-to-day implications and impact, these things really, really matter, and they're meaningful. But especially for those of us in Chutz La'aretz who are still outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's hard to understand what exactly the implication of this is and why this day should have any element of Yom Tov associated with it, right? Why at the end of the day is there a Yom Tov component, as evidenced by the fact that we don't say Tachanun? What is the Simcha of Tu B'Shvat? And the Sfarim, many different answers. But the Sfarim make an interesting observation. The Mishnah, the Lashon of the Mishnah, the wording in the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, when it speaks about Shvat being the new year for trees, says Rosh Hashanah le'ilon. It says it is the Rosh Hashanah for the tree, singular. Now, what's interesting is that same Mishnah goes through all the different New Years, right? The New Year for years, Rosh Hashanah, right? Rosh Hashanah l'Malachim, l'Regalim, the New Year for kings, the New Year for the Yamim Tovim, and it always articulates the New Year like in the plural. Like, for example, the New Year for kings. How do kings date their reign? Is on Nisan, plural. Rosh Hashanah l'Shanim u'L'Shmitin. When's the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year? For literally calendar purposes, for calendrical purposes, for years, for Shemitah, for Yovlos. Again, that's the 1st of Tishrei. It's always the plural. Yet when it comes to the Rosh Hashanah for trees, it doesn't say trees plural, ilanos, but rather it says Rosh Hashanah la'ilan. The Rosh Hashanah ultimately, again, for the tree. And the Shaila, of course, becomes, why does it phrase it in the singular? And the Sfarim, many different Hasidic sources bring down this concept, but the Sfarim bring down a beautiful idea. See, because embedded in Tu B'Shvat is a deeper message as well, because you see, man is also referred to as a tree. In Chumash Devarim, the Torah says, actually talking about a totally separate halacha. The Torah is talking about if you're at war and you lay siege to a particular city. So the Torah says as follows: you can't unnecessarily destroy fruit trees. And the Torah says, why not? So the way we read this is as an interrogative. Is the tree an enemy combatant, right? Is the tree a person who's fighting against you? So how do you have to cut down a tree? Now, obviously, if you have to cut down a tree for military purposes, for strategic purposes, that's one thing. But if halacha l'maisa, the tree is not posing any type of threat to you, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Just don't do anything. But interestingly enough, the Sfarim explain, Ki Adam Eitz Hasada is also a statement. Man is like a tree of the field. Ki Adam Eitz Hasada. And this profound metaphor has so many different layers of meaning. Man is like a tree, right? Man has roots, right? None of us just kind of appeared by ourselves. We're all part of a complex root system. We have parents, we have grandparents, we have multiple tentacles, multiple roots. who created our tree. And we're part of Klal, so we're part of an Am, we're part of multiple root systems. So it's important to understand that who we are, and what we have are really because of the roots which have nourished us throughout the ages. Like a tree, we start as a sapling, something small. But the goal is to grow into something robust. The goal is to build ourselves into something bigger and beautiful. And like a tree, our goal is to produce fruit. Fruit represents our Maisim Tovim, our good deeds, our Torah, our chesed, our acts of loving kindness, our acts of self-actualization. Those are our peros. So I have roots, right? I have branches, and I have fruit. But the Sfarim point out something amazing. They say, what's unique about Tu B'Shvat? What exactly? If you go, okay, so all of us know if you're ever in Eretz Yisrael on Tu B'Shvat, the one thing you'll see, right? Pretty much everything looks the same. What's going to be the difference? So Ashkedia Parachat, I'm not going to sing it, right? So the almond trees, amazingly enough, the almond trees come to life, right? The almond trees are blossoming. But aside from that, you look around the fields on Tu B'Shvat, it looks exactly the same. You look at the trees, they look exactly the same. But yet, the Gemara and Rashi point out that something dramatically changes once Tu B'Shvat arrives. And the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara says, Amar Balaz, Amar Oshia, Afa pi shrav t'kufim libachutz, hoil v'yatzu rov gishmei shana. By the time Tu B'Shvat comes, the majority of the rainy season is behind us. The majority of the rainy season is behind us. And Rashi points out something absolutely amazing. What does it mean the majority of the rainy season is behind us? Shekvar avar rov yimos hagishamim, shuz man revia. So the majority of the rains have already passed. Va'ala sraf bi'ilanos. And ultimately the sap is bubbling up inside of the trees. V'nimtzu aperos chontin me'ata. And the fruit is beginning to blossom. Fruit is beginning to blossom. So Rashi is highlighting something absolutely amazing. When Tu B'Shvat comes, externally, you won't see anything different on the trees. But if you were to like slice open the tree, what you would see is the sap bubbling up inside of that tree. That sap, which is the lifeblood of the tree, that sap, which is going to result in total tree regeneration, in leaves, in vegetation, in fruit, all of that is coming. The sap is there. Now, externally, you're not going to see anything different about the tree. But internally, all the sap that is necessary in order to bring that tree back to life in the not so distant future, it's bubbling up inside and it's already there. And the Sfarim relate, herein lies the power of Tu B'Shvat. See what Chazal purposely went ahead. They didn't call it Rosh Hashanah Li'ilanos. They didn't call it the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year for trees, plural. Rather, Rosh Hashanah Li'ilan. Because Chazal wanted to see ourselves in the tree. It's singular. Ki Adam eitz hasadeh. Man is a tree. Rosh Hashanah li'ilan. What's the message of Tu B'Shvat for you and me? You look at nature. You go outside now, everything looks dead. Everything looks lifeless. Everything looks just done. And again, if you didn't know how the seasons worked, and someone asked you, tell me, what do you think is going to happen over here? I would say, you know what? This is a lifeless wasteland. Again, we know how seasons work. So the spring will come, and the summer will come. But again, if you didn't know how anything worked, and you just looked around, you said, terrible, this is horrible. We're done. It's the end of the world. Nothing's coming back to life. But yet comes Tu B'Shvat, and the very sap needed to create a resurgency is there. It's bubbling. You can't see it on the outside, but you can see it on the inside. Everything that tree needs to regenerate, everything that tree needs to regrow, everything that tree needs to become the best version of itself. The world can't see it, but the tree contains it within. And in just a little bit, the tree's going to access that, and that sap is going to start to spread everywhere and bring every single part of that tree back to life. And Chazal wanted us to look at that tree, go outside on Tu B'Shvat, and look at a lifeless tree. And you know what happens when you look at a lifeless tree for many of us? We see our own reflection. Because sometimes I look in the mirror and I feel and I see a lifeless tree. I see something that has roots, but the roots aren't really delivering the nutrients I need. And I have branches, but to be honest, they're kind of nebuchi. And fruit, there hasn't been fruit in a while. And sometimes, however, we look in the mirror and we see that personalistic, lifeless tree. and we give up hope. We just give up hope. And we figure to ourselves, you know what, this is just the end of the road. There's nothing else for me to do. And comes the Yom Tov of Tu B'Shvat, Rosh Hashanah Le'ilan. And the trees, in nature, the trees which are lifeless, have all of this beautiful, incredible, energetic, I know it's not a word, but I like it, energetic sap that's moving, that's going, and it's going to bring it back to life. And I look at the tree, and although I can't see it, I know the sap is in there. And you know what I say to myself? Like an epiphany. Hey, that's me. That's me. Because I also have sap. I have a tremendous reservoir of spiritual energy that is inside of me. I have a tremendous amount of koach, a tremendous amount of ability, a tremendous amount of potential. And the truth is, it just hasn't been accessed in a while. But it's there. And it's waiting to be accessed, and it's waiting to be utilized, and it's waiting to be actualized. It's just waiting. And if the trees of the field could garner up their sap and come back to life, then so can I. That is the simcha of Tu B'Shvat. Because the greatest simcha in the world is the knowledge that you could regenerate. The greatest simcha in the world is the knowledge that you could bring yourself back to life. The greatest simcha in the world is knowing that no matter how lifeless I look, I can come back to life. I could tap into my personalistic holy sap, and I could regenerate, and I could put leaves on my branches, and my roots could bring up the nutrients, and I could produce fruit. I could produce results. I could accomplish things. If the trees could come back to life because they have sap, then I can come back to life because I have the sap of potential inside of me as well. This is the simcha of Tu B'Shvat. But it's a nuanced simcha, right? It's a nuanced simcha because remember, no one could force you to actualize your sap, right? No one could force you to tap into your sap. You have to choose to do that on your own. And so there's like a big unknown on this day of Tu B'Shvat. Will we? Won't we? Will it be a day of incredible resurgence, renewal, and rejuvenation? Or will it just be another Thursday? That's the shaila. So what Chazal did was, they kind of put like little, like breadcrumbs. There's no Tachanun. Ooh, no Tachanun. What does that mean? That must mean it's a day of Simcha. But if it was such a day of Simcha, I don't know, maybe a Hallel, something. But no, it's only like a shtik Simcha, like a little bit of Simcha, because Chazal are waiting to see. You're going to tap into your sap or not tap into your sap? Rejuvenate, regenerate, rededicate, or not? Or not? Whatever, that's up to us. Today is the great day where the trees celebrate their newfound sap. But today is also the day, it's the Rosh Hashanah Le'ilan. It is the new year, not for the trees, but for the tree. Ki ha'adam etz hasadeh. For me. Today could be a Rosh Hashanah for us as well. If we recognize that like the trees that grow outside, their sap is running through them and they are ready to bust forth. They are ready to rejuvenate. They're ready to regrow. This Ilan, the personalistic tree, also has that sap of potential, and it is just waiting to be accessed. Hallelujah, we should be Zochem Yirtzeh Hashem, to make this day into a true day of Simcha, a true Yom Tov. As the trees regenerate, our personalistic trees should regenerate as well. And as the trees access their sap, each of us should access our sap of potential as well, and create and produce beautiful peros, beautiful fruits of accomplishment for many years to come. Wishing everyone a lichtige and a freiliche Tu B'Shvat, a Tu B'Shvat Sameach, a Chag Sameach. And it should truly be a Yom Tov for the natural world, and it should be a Yom Tov for our personalistic world as well.